Hi, you're listening to After Dinner Conversations, short stories for long discussions. What that means is we get short stories, we select those short stories, and then we discuss them specifically about the ethics and the morality of the choices the characters and the situations put us in. Why did you do this? What makes you do this? What makes us good people? What's the nature of truth, goodness, all of that sort of stuff. And hopefully we're all better, smarter people for it and learn a little bit about why we think the way we think. So thank you for listening. Hi, and welcome back once again to After Dinner Conversation, where we have short stories where we discuss them and we talk about the morality and the ethics of what's going on in the short stories that are published on our website, After Dinner Conversation, and or on Amazon. There's lots of places you can get them. I am here. I'm your co-host Kolby, here with co-host Jeremy and Ashley.
Hello.
And we are once again in La Guitarra Cat Cafe, where they... that's why I'm a little distracted right now. There are two cats on our table. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can see that. And it's a white one with brown, and there's a brown one. And you notice they almost never talk about the species of cat like they do with dogs.
Like brown one. Black one.
Right, because it's not like this is the smart cat or this is the cat that like is a water cat.
This is the golden retriever. He retrieves.
Yeah.
No, this is just a freaking cat.
Yeah, what kind of cat is it?
The cat does what cats do.
Right, it chases the laser pointer. It poos in the litter box. At any rate, you can come here and you can get a cat, and they've been great hosts for us for our now 15th episode, and they've just been amazing. If you're in Tempe, Arizona ever, definitely come by. For $10, you can have a coffee and hang out with cats, and for a little bit more, you can bring one home with you. But it's like a way to test drive the cats.
Or if you can't have a cat, just you want to get your cat fixin'.
Right. Also, Jeremy had one in our last thing, and I forgot to mention it,
right.
is we made Jeremy a special shirt that says, so I was researching that. I made one for myself. I'm not wearing his shirt. And in the process of doing it, I was like, hey, we should sell these. That's like a thing. So if you want to buy a After Dinner Conversation shirt, you can do that. Just go to our website, and there's a spot on there where you can buy merchandise now. I'm sure our sales will be in the ones. Maybe the twos. But whatever, my mom will buy one. It'll be awesome. Yeah. Feel free to buy one. They're not nasty shirts. They're not cotton shirts. They're like the tri-blend polyester cool ones.
Buy the shirt. Buy one for all of your friends. Yeah. Read one of these stories. Yeah. Have a discussion, and then watch the podcast. I'm just saying, and then send us a picture or video of it, and you will get a free copy of our book that is out or should be out.
Yeah, it will be out by now for sure.
Yeah.
After Dinner Conversation Season 1 will be out on Amazon for download or for like a paper copy. And it'll have the stories, 25 of the best stories that we've done, as well as the questions that go with them. There are even children's stories in there if you want to have some children's stories. It's pretty rock star. You don't pet the cat that way. You'll get scratched. Okay, and so, let's do our first story. Ruddy Apes.
Ruddy Apes
I'll just
and
leave
Cannibals.
it to you, man. You do it. Do it, Jeremy.
By Shikhandin.
Okay, we don't know how to pronounce it because it's it's not his real name anyway. It's his pen name.
Nom de plume. All right, so this is a familiar story at first. It's the story of English explorers discovering an island paradise and the inevitable conflict that arises because of their clash of cultures.
I hate the word discovered. It implies that the people weren't there before you bumped into them.
Exactly.
Discovered America. No, America had people. You just didn't know they were there.
Right.
Sorry, that's just my little pet peeve. But I understand what you meant.
In this particular story, the island is very remote and appears to be discovered in the 1940s or 50s.
Okay.
The explorers, or Ruddy Apes in this case, discover an island of civilized cannibals. Much of the story is spent describing the cannibals and their seemingly utopian society. No dogmatic religion, responsible use of natural resources and nuclear energy, compulsory education, advanced medicine, a successful space program, a happy and progressive culture, no overpopulation.
That's like Utopia.
I know.
Okay.
I did say, their seemingly utopian society.
Oh, sorry. I got scratched by a cat.
Distracted by a cat.
I got distracted by a cat. Sorry. I'm listening. Focus. Focus.
Some time is also spent discussing how their cannibalism works, in that it's consensual. The humans who are there are humans who are raised for eating, and they're revered individuals who decide when they want to be eaten. Regular citizens as well can offer themselves, which is seen as a great honor for both them and
it's like the
people
opposite
eating
of the
them.
other story had. The one way back when where they eat the fat kid.
This I Do for You.
This I Do for You, yeah, where they
kid.
well, no, they fatten the kid up to ginormous in case there's a famine, then they can eat
and
all
he wasn't revered. He was like, oh, we don't talk about you.
We don't talk about it. Keep him in the room.
This is not like that.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
Because cannibals are so content in this utopian society, they don't see the Ruddy Apes as a threat in any way. And when their cannibalism discovered, the Ruddy Apes turn hostile and want to civilize the cannibals. The result of this is a trial where the Ruddy Apes bring in lots of vehicles and machines to build a big fort on the cannibals' island where they can hold a trial. This trial consists of the Ruddy Apes lording over the cannibals and trying to convince them that their cannibalism is wrong. And the crux of this is the discussion over how the cannibals believe that eating fellow humans is an act inspired by love and respect for others, and that the hopes, dreams, loves, ideas, and deeds of all people live on after their body has died. So at the end of this trial, the cannibals tell the Ruddy Apes to leave the island. They're like, we're done with you.
The trial doesn't go well.
The trial doesn't go well. And the cannibals tell the Ruddy Apes, it's time for you guys to leave.
Right.
We're done with you. So the Ruddy Apes pack up all their stuff and go, and as soon as they're off the island, they explode the atomic bombs that they've hidden on the island.
Yeah.
Destroying
Which, by the
island.
way, the cannibals are so technologically advanced, they could have wiped out everybody at any time.
Yeah, they were like we're just going to teleport them away.
Right, but they're so civilized, they choose not to.
Right. They don't believe in just indiscriminate killing.
Right, and it's the non-cannibals that do believe in the indiscriminate killing.
Like, they're super duper advanced. Like, they explore the stars. They go to other planets. Like, they're like space nerds.
Yeah.
They're like super smart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yet they eat themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
each other.
People. Each
Right.
other.
Most of the cannibals perish, but the narrator promises that many survived and are living among us or living out in space.
Yeah.
So,
okay. You have some thoughts as you read it?
yeah, it's an interesting story.
Okay.
I do like the cannibals are presented very much as the civilized culture in this story.
Yeah.
The Ruddy Apes, while they do have some advanced technology and but they're very warfaring, and they're even presented in very much a way that they sail around, and any cultures that they run into, they appropriate and take all their stuff.
I was just thinking they were just in my mind they were just stand-ins for like British colonizers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like they call them Ruddy Apes, but it could just be like British colonizers and cannibals. Could have been the name of the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. It feels very similar in that. What are those the stories? You know which ones I mean.
I
maybe
really
not.
don't. You pull books out of your butt that I'm just like, man, like nobody read that book, but like you and the dude's mom.
The Bounty.
Okay, that one I have.
But I feel like there's a series of Master and Commander, or even Pirates of the Caribbean. All these English explorers
finding cannibals, finding indigenous people.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So
in this story,
you wanna jump in? Yeah, sure.
The theory is there's two different types of people, and they end up kind of like living amongst themselves in a way, like they end up mixing at the end.
Something like that.
So it's like you have this one super civilized society, and this other like elementary, newer-ish one. Whoa, unhappy kitties! Oh, do not snuggle near me. That's what that one said to the other one. And the beginning paragraph is really interesting. It's like, does the rain remember vapor? Does vapor remember rain? Yet both were the other in their past lives. If you told their stories to each other, would they even comprehend? And does that mean their stories are unnecessary, unimportant, or implausible?
Yeah.
So it's like talking to a primitive human to a today human. And if you just swapped stories, would you believe that one truly was the other?
Yeah.
We're the same.
So it reminded me a little bit of, you probably know, Jeremy, who said this, but there was some science fiction writer who said that a sufficiently technologically advanced civilization will always seem like magic.
Well, any sufficiently advanced technology will just seem like magic.
Right. And I think that that's true in the sense that if you took someone from the 1400s and showed them how a gun worked, like a modern gun worked, it would be like magic, or whatever the case may be, right? That something goes from unimaginable to imaginable to possible to real, right? And I think that's the thing that they're talking about with these people is, would they recognize each other because they're so differently on the spectrum? Would they recognize that they're still both human?
Yeah.
Right. And I think for me, it seemed like I'm just going to keep calling them the British because it's easier for me to remember. It seems to me like the British or the Ruddy Apes wouldn't know that they were the cannibals, right? Like that's who they are as well. The cannibals, I think, are sophisticated enough to understand that, like, yeah, we may have been like them one day, or but for these other choices.
And they say that
made.
in the beginning, that they both came from the same place, and they understand this and recognize their past, but the Ruddy Apes don't.
So the cannibals are so sophisticated, not only technologically, but mentally and emotionally.
Even culturally,
that they didn't even blow up the Ruddy Apes. They were just like, you just need to leave. Like they could have annihilated them, and they're like, yo, bro, just go. Like you're not even worth my time. You are so insignificant. And
I think they weren't they like not even worth the trouble to transport off the island, because they had like transporters like in Star Trek or something.
They could teleport them, but
they weren't even worth teleporting off the island because it took energy.
Yeah.
Like that's how insignificant you were to me. So, so I'll tell you one of the things that I thought was really fascinating about this, and Jeremy, you and I had talked about this a little bit. We try not to talk about the stories beforehand, but we do anyway. And that is that the person being eaten, that the cannibal eats, the other human, chooses to be eaten, right? And so it is a voluntary thing. And so in that sense, it's not an act of violence. It's an act.
It's a consensual act.
It's a consensual act. And I think the thing that was interesting to me that had never occurred, like literally never occurred to me until I'd read this, is does that mean that every other meat you eat, because it is not conscious and it is not consensual, is a violent act? Like if I eat chicken, if I eat chicken, because the chicken wasn't like, I'm cool with this, like I've committed a violent act by eating chicken or eating beef or eating fish or eating anything that was alive. And the only thing I really should be allowed to eat in a consensual way is something that is sentient enough to understand and choose to be eaten.
I think a lot of vegans would agree with that.
The problem,
but they wouldn't be cannibals. That's for sure.
Right. I'm going to take this to another. So is there option like eat humans or eat plants?
Or
eat
literally,
vegetables, Like if they're only on consent, then they'd be like, I only eat human meat, and that's the only type of meat because they can give me consent.
And this is going to seem so stupid in some way, but that made so much sense to me when I read it and thought about it.
Like in that sense,
it was like, like I should probably be a vegetarian.
Okay, so I'm going to take this to the real extreme. You keep talking about things that are alive and not alive. Like plants are alive.
They are.
I'm just saying, like. A blueberry is alive when it's on the tree.
I know,
and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna kill you too.
And I just read a thing a little while ago that like plants let out some like sound.
Yes,
some subsonic sound when they're in pain.
They
do. But at some point I gotta eat something.
Yeah, I know.
But, I mean, I don't know what a tofu looks like, but I'm gonna eat it.
So that brings us to our second question.
Oh, is it?
The islanders are cannibals. They do so because they like the way human meat tastes. Is that a good enough reason to eat human meat? Is that a good enough reason to eat meat in general?
Yes.
Meat in
because
general,
it tastes
certainly.
good. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. When I was younger, I questioned, why don't we eat people?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're eating meat. And then I learned muscle was meat, and I was like, why don't we eat ourselves? And people were like, oh, I was a kid.
But you never had that thought about dog.
But okay, so this is the thing.
Because you were like, I'd never eat a dog because they're adorable.
How do you draw the line? We go, chicken, yes. Pig, yes. Cow, yes. Horse, no. There's like this big
dog, which is just as smart as pig. No.
No. Cat, no.
Yeah. But it's personality.
Like personality goes a long ways.
If you break it down to the most basic, like
it's just calories.
It is muscle. Yeah. It is just fibers. It is just meat. It's muscle.
Yes, and that's kind of their point at the end.
So are you okay with cannibalism? Did you just decide that? Did you convince yourself?
Yeah. It's called long pig when you eat it. It's not called people.
Really?
Is that really? Did you research that?
Yeah.
I was researching this. Did you research that? If you eat people, it's called long pig?
In some cultures.
Really?
Yeah.
So I see it as a waste of meat. Like, okay, break it down now. You die, you decompose in the environment, your nutrients are released, they supply like a new plant, which you end up eating that. Like, isn't it like the water you drink has passed through like 4 people before you actually drink it. Wasn't
the statistic was in California that water from the mountain is drunk and keyed and purified 7 times before it makes it to the ocean.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
they continually recycle the water.
Someone has to, and someone has to.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I'm just, like, my matter is still here. It just gets transformed to a new thing.
Yeah.
So in a homeopathic sense, we're all cannibals.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But in general, I in a very simplistic realm, I'm like, meat is meat. Like, I get it. It's not seen as appropriate to eat another human. I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying I'm promoting that.
I'm not going to be on the raft with you.
But people have done that. Look at the Donner family. Like, yes, we eat each other because meat is meat.
You know that guy opened a restaurant later.
Really?
Yeah. The Donner guy, one of the guys that lived, opened a restaurant, and that's how he retired. And it was like a novelty to go eat at the Donner restaurant.
So I'm just saying, though, like, when push comes to shove,
it's just meat.
Meat
just calories.
is just meat.
Yeah. So would you say that the only reason that we aren't cannibals is because it's just a sort of social construct?
That is the only reason.
Meaning that...
Because in our culture, you don't want to be on the eaten end.
Yeah.
You
don't want to be on the grandma end of that. Yeah. I assume you eat old people, right? Like,
oh, my gosh.
Well, nobody's going to have baby veal. Like, that's just mean. You gotta wait for the old people. I'm surprised you guys took that stance. I thought you guys would be more anti-cannibal.
Like, don't eat people.
Yeah.
Why? Why would we? Are you don't eat people?
No, I'm totally not. But here's the thing: I eat everything.
Yeah.
It's totally not acceptable. I don't have. I'm like we've talked about this. When I lived in China, I went to a restaurant that served dog and had dog soup, and I held out for like a year before I went. And at the end of it, the restaurant did perfectly fine business. Yeah. And at the end of the year, I was like, "Look, it's a cultural thing. Like,
gotta try it.
I wouldn't eat it in America, but if I'm here, I'll eat it." And I will say I was really revulsed by it, just because like that cultural sort of structure made me really struggle. And it tasted like dog, like that smell, like when you have a wet dog that like has been out in the rain. Imagine if that's what food tasted like, and it was not good.
So if that line between what animal you eat and don't eat on the spectrum is movable, that's all I see it as. Like in other countries, they move a little bit farther. Other countries, they move it a little bit back.
I'm good with everything from cockroaches to people, in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maggots to people.
Wow.
I'm totally cool with. It's protein, man. Unless you go to the consent part. And if you believe that you can only eat that which consents to be eaten,
then it's only people.
Then it's only people and it's nothing else.
It's
and that makes perfect sense to me too.
But it's a good case for the technology where we're trying to grow meat on a lattice. You know, meat in a manufactured
I'd be fine eating
meat.
that. I'd be fine with the. Actually, I was just at a restaurant yesterday that had the Beyond Burgers or whatever they're called.
The fake burgers.
Yeah, those are just. Aren't they
they're just chemicals.
Plant anyways?
Yeah, they're plant with a ton of chemicals in them. I'm not sure they're good for the environment, but they're not meat.
Or good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to find out they cause
so
cancer
if you,
someday.
so obviously you kind of sort of answer this. If you were visiting the Islanders,
I love how you get us to the questions.
Well, it's a good segue point because you're like, I would eat the dog.
I'm like, let's talk here. Let's talk here. Let's talk over here.
So if I was visiting the Islanders, would I eat the human meat that they gave you to eat? I would.
Really? I would not have guessed that's your answer based on our other podcasts.
Well, it's their
I'm totally cool with that.
It's their cultural thing, and how disrespectful would it be? Like, they're like, this is our delicacy.
But
this is our grandest human who just sacrificed for you.
And by that rationale, you would really, in another culture where they're eating bugs, you would eat what they're giving you.
Yes.
Hi, this is Kolby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/afterdinnerconversation. That's right, for as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an add incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions. And you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion.
Well, Well, it's their
No, I'm totally cool with that.
It's their cultural thing, and how disrespectful would it be? Like, they're like, this is our delicacy.
But
This is our grandest human who just sacrificed for you.
And by that rationale, you would really, in another culture where they're eating bugs, you would eat what they're giving you.
Yes.
But here's the part where I thought you wouldn't say that, because I thought we had some podcast.
It also depends on how it's, like, presented.
There's that.
But here's the thing. This is why I thought you wouldn't go that way. Number one, because I know there's no way you'd ever eat dog. So if we went to this, if you went to this island with the cannibals, but they weren't cannibals, they were dog eaters, you'd be like, no, I can't eat dog.
If they gave me food and I ate it and I didn't know what it was, I would eat it.
It tastes like chicken, and then
I would eat it.
Really? You keep eating it after you found out what it was, if it was okay.
If it was okay,
yeah.
certainly.
Yeah,
I
would not want to be disrespectful.
I just thought maybe you liked dogs more than people.
I've had friends be like, here, you need to try this. And I'm like, what is it? And they're like, we'll tell you after you eat it. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, that was alligator. And I'm like,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so the other reason I thought you wouldn't fall in this category of being okay with this is because I thought we had some discussion like 10 podcasts ago, it's all blending together now, about like prostitution or about something like that that's socially acceptable in other cultures. And you were like, no.
That was because I wanted them to be more like use their brains, not their bodies.
Okay, so it wasn't about the cultural issue. It was about
women empowerment. Like that's the best you can do is use your physical attributes. You're so much more than just your physical.
There could be guy prostitutes.
They could do so much more.
Scenario,
it's the same situation.
All right.
Yeah. No, I actually, the logic.
That makes more sense to me, actually, the way you've described it now than the way I heard it the first time, like 10 episodes ago.
Yeah. The cannibals' logic and why they eat each other, it all makes sense to me. I'm not going to rebuttal their way of life. Now, do I want to, like, start a revolution and get our society to change to be cannibals? No.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my goal. That's not what I want to see society change to be. But I understand their logic within this.
It's an interesting discussion.
Jeremy, were you okay with you'd eat the people meat too?
In that scenario, on the island, that's what they're doing, especially if they told you about this is the person, this is how we're honoring them.
Yeah, they were fine with. You'd already been eating a little bit already, and it tasted fine.
Yeah.
Huh. Then why do you think that the British /
It's
Ruddy
easy
Apes
to say that.
Yeah, no, fair. You know, actually, I just wrote questions for a story that hasn't been published yet, and one of the questions was, is it fair for you to decide what's right and wrong in this person's situation, given that you've never been in this situation? It's the classic, and actually it'll be in the book that's coming out. It's a classic question of, like, knock on the door, hide me from the Nazis, I'm a Jew. And the person doesn't. They turn him in. And one of the questions is, was it right to turn them in or not? And then the next question is, do you have the right to judge someone else for a situation that you've never been in and never had to deal with their thing, right? But so we're all saying we'd eat the humans, but then when we're there, we might balk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's should we do anything to change or fix a society which we generally find immoral?
You saying that's a non-applicable question to this one because you don't find it immoral?
I say go for it. I'm not protesting eating dog in China. Like I understand that's their vibe, that's their thing. Cool, you go do that. I'm gonna be over here, like, or I'll be over there. And I understand.
What about the
now? The only thing that does start to get me is when they're like over fishing. What is it like the
everything? Yeah,
making something extinct. Yeah.
Yeah, that where I'm like, whoa, hold your roll there. Like I get it. You're okay with eating XYZ, but not if you're at the detriment of killing off an entire like whale population.
Yeah. What about the other thing that question talks about? The idea of is it okay to, what is it about, where is it again? Is it okay to destroy, or do you have an obligation to destroy something that you find immoral? So let's assume for the sake of argument that you find cannibalism to be immoral. It would be perhaps one of the most immoral things possible if you found it immoral, right? Like, I don't know what's worse than cannibalism if you consider cannibalism bad. Do you then have an obligation to stomp that out, to destroy that civilization, to be like educate or die, basically, if you find an immorality?
This country has been living in their own little island, living their best life.
You've got a lot to say about this story,
They
don't
aren't
you?
impacting me. I'm not like I would like to have a relationship with them. I mean, they got cool technology and stuff, but I'm like, if they're that far advanced over me, there's something that they know that I don't know.
So does that
So
mean
how about we just discuss ideas and like You do you. You go eat your
wait
people.
a minute. I'm gonna ask you that, and I'm gonna switch it up then, because that's an easy stance to take until you switch it up. So let's say that we find a bunch of heroin people that are like, look, I'm perfectly happy doing heroin. I'm gonna die or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, you know what? Your heroin addiction's affecting our society. And they're like, well, go put us somewhere where it doesn't. And we're like, oh, okay. And so we go stick them in Australia, right? And we're like, hey, go do heroin in Australia. You can have this island. Assuming there's no other people in Australia.
Okay.
Or some like, whatever, some spot, right?
Sure.
Are you okay with being like, look, I think heroin's terrible. I think you're ruining your life. I think life is bad for you. I think you're going to die at a young age and have rotten teeth. But it's not affecting me.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
You cannot make an addict no longer be an addict until they want to no longer be an addict.
Boy, you're sounding more and more like a libertarian.
It's true, though. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make a drink until that horse wants to drink. It's the same thing. Like, yeah, you can do interventions.
You just shove its face in the water.
You can do interventions. You can put them in therapy, but until they're ready to change.
And same thing with the cannibals.
Same thing with smoking. Same thing with cannibals. Same thing with drugs. Same thing with, I think, like, you've got to want to change yourself.
Jeremy?
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I don't know. This is an interesting conversation with the behavioral therapy conversation from the last story.
Right, because she didn't want to change herself.
Right. So at
they
what
forced
point?
her change.
Right.
Yeah. Because she wouldn't conform to society of
And
not
they were willing to
killing
like
people.
traumatize her in a war zone to change her behavior.
Yes.
Jeremy, what do you?
Now, that's the thing. She's going to be affecting other people, though. If you put her with a whole bunch of other like serial killers on an island together, and they're not going to touch me
Man,
or
that
try
is
to.
some reality TV right there.
I am good with being.
I would
it'd
watch
be-
that movie.
What's the Hunger Games? They're like all trying to
Yeah.
kill each other.
Voluntary Hunger Games.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be
I've
like,
always wanted to
my
be a
God.
serial killer, and now I've got the chance.
exactly. I'm like, as long as I will not be affected
Isn't
or.
that the Running Man? Basically, criminals and the.
I was thinking of that Japanese one where they're all on the island. But so, what do you think, Jeremy? Do
Battle
you think you have an
Royale,
obligation to either modify or stomp out inherently like grossly immoral behavior?
That is a big question. I personally don't think that, but in this particular scenario, but there are a lot of factors to it.
Number one, does it affect other people? Like Ashley
Right.
mentioned.
And in this scenario,
It
it's very
doesn't.
consensual. It affects other
Right.
people, but
They're consenting to it to begin with
Exactly.
anyway, and it's not affecting these British, or you
Sure,
call them,
sure.
the Ruddy Apes.
They're literally an island unto themselves.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, pardon me. Say those people were living within the Ruddy Ape society, like they just had their own little part of town.
That's a different story in your mind.
That's
huh?
a
different story.
completely different
That's a good
situation
point.
because, well, again, how will their cannibalism affect the Ruddy Apes? Are they influencing the Ruddy Apes? Or they're like, hey, my kids look
Right.
over the wall and they see what you're doing, and that makes our kids go crazy. We don't want them
And they
to.
become cannibals.
Yeah. Then that becomes a whole different situation.
This is like the heroin addiction thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can stick them all on a Pacific island, you're good with that.
Sure. Until they're ready. And I'd be like, yo, when you're ready to change, you let me know.
That's fair. I'm gonna go back to Jeremy's thing because he gave us a cop-out answer. So you,
Oh, goodness.
I feel like once an
No,
episode I ask you a question and you're like, it depends.
It does depend.
always
It's-
depends.
So
the
let
scenario
me let me
depends. I
let me
think you have
go
to look at every
further on.
scenario.
What are the factors that it depends on?
Okay, the fact does it affect other people?
Sure.
Does it
affect the environment. Like, are we all going to die from pollution?
Like, so if the Ruddy Apes are burning coal,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. They should
Okay.
make them change.
But if it's something that, that doesn't affect other people that are non-consensual, that can be isolated, then all immoral behavior is acceptable, and you have no obligation to it. As far as you can
I
think
think
of
it
right now.
depends. Okay.
I might come up with some example, but
Okay.
the best you can think of.
Unless
China, for a long time,
Yeah.
is harvesting organs from prisoners.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's clever.
And selling them to Westerners.
That's the Chinese thing I've ever heard.
wow.
That is a communist country right there, man.
So,
Yeah.
do we have a moral obligation to make them change?
No, but of course we might have a moral obligation not to buy those organs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would force the change.
So
If
I'll tell
nobody's
you.
buying.
So I'll tell you. This is the thing I liked about this story, in that it creates the perfect scenario for exactly the thing that you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Something that is, assuming you find it immoral, like the Ruddy Apes do, it is perfectly immoral. Like, it's the most perfectly immoral
Right.
thing ever. But it is also the most perfectly contained immorality possible.
Right.
So,
Right.
so let's apply this to society here. So instead of putting people in jail or sending them to rehab, how about we this is the section where all the killers go,
Yeah.
This is the section
Escape from New
you
York.
parcel out an area where they just live. You're getting sent to the new state Heroina or whatever. Like you're getting
Heroina? That's where the heroin users go?
You're getting sent to I want to kill youville. Like you get sent to can't stop smoking, don't care about my lungs city.
Lung Cancerville.
And they just live in their little pockets until they're ready to is that what we need to? Is that something we should look at instead of just sending them to jail? Where they're restricted of all of their whatever, be like, hey, are you wanting to change? First of all, are you wanting to change? If the answer is no, then okay.
We've got an island for you.
We got an island for you. Do you think that would work?
Move to Denver.
Right. We got a state for you. Yeah.
Because that's what people. Or would that create even worse environments because you're putting people with other same thought people in destructive behavior?
The trend, of course, is universalism, not separatism. Right? Yeah. Is that the world is becoming more, its language and its currency and its morals and its values over the last 200 or 300 years have becoming
more
homogenous, not more diverse, because it's just easier to travel and it's easier to intermarry and it's easier to gather information.
Yeah. So perfect situation. Where will our line fall? Because everyone's able to travel. You traveled. You tried dog. Your tipping point changed a little bit compared to normal America society. So as we continue mixing cultures and things get all kind of mushed together, how will that tipping point change?
I think, I don't know. I think.
Do you think, I mean, we don't have the extremes, not that I'm aware of any cannibalism society, but we do have this wishy-washy dietary what's permissible. And then as research shows, I mean, people turn vegan for health reasons. Look, what's the newest, there was another, sorry, keep referencing Netflix. There's the Netflix show about the athletes when they take their blood serum after eating meat. And there's all this foamy, thick serum. Whereas if they have a plant-based diet, their plasma's clear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it plenty of times. But again, health reasons, people are making these dietary changes. So is it going to be societies changing, people are intermixing? Is it going to be research-based? Is it going to be something happens that, oh my gosh, people are dying because of it, like more people are getting cancer, now everyone has to change their diet? It'd be interesting to see what's going to force that change as we all become one, homogenous in our travels and what we find permissible and not. Look at the United States. Before pot was, illegal, and now as society bends a little bit, okay, that's permissible.
Yeah.
How much more way are we going to swing in other things?
Yeah. So I'm looking at our questions. I want to tie this back a little bit. So the last question on our list is,
other university study actions could offer substituted for cannibalism.
Yeah.
So again,
I think what the conclusion is that we don't have a substitute for the cannibalism that would make us change our minds, as long as it didn't affect other people.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we're all good libertarians, is what I think. I'm really racking my brain trying to come up with one, and I can't.
I find it very honorable and great that people are like, I want to save you. I get it.
Oh, I think we could come back to pedophilia.
Well, everything comes back to pedophilia.
Right.
Yeah.
Where.
That's like the trump card in the deck. That's like.
But again, that's
something that can't be consensual.
That's true. That's a great point. And so that's one of the things I think they even mentions in this story is I think that you can't be eaten until you're old enough to consent to be eaten or something, right? I think you have to be you have to be a certain age. You can't be like a 6-year-old being like, I want to be eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some sort of age requirement, I assume, or something for that process.
So I guess if it involves children.
Well, I think that would be.
And again, what's the age of consent? They just bumped up the age of cigarettes now, and it's
21.
Well, I'm okay to fight for my country at 18, but I can't buy cigarettes.
But But I think that's the thing. I think that would apply universally to all of this, right? So, if somebody was like, "Hey, I want to move to Cannibal Island," and you're like, "Look, you're 9 years old. You're my kid. You don't do that. You're my kid. You're my responsibility until you're an adult. You don't get to choose your, what is it called? What were we saying? Your immorality. You don't get to choose your morality until you're an adult.
Right.
Which I'm totally, actually, I agree with that too. But 21, I guess, is the age now. If you want to start getting guns and playing Russian roulette. Russian roulette island. That's the island you go to. Because eventually there'd just be one person on the island. It would be, think how cheap housing would be.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I think we're at a good stopping point here. So
It's just going to go downhill from there.
It's going to go downhill from there.
So
Russian
if you need us,
Roulette Island.
We'll be we'll be on Fear Factor next. We'll eat anything you put in front of us that's morally acceptable and give us consent.
We're going to Thailand soon, and I'm going to put some maggot, like whatever meal in front of you. And
I can't. If it grosses me out, I don't care if it's a vegetable that grosses. It's got to be presentable.
You just have to not know what it is. That's all.
And it has to look presentable.
Yeah.
I will eat it.
Tastes good.
All right, we're going to take that to the test. So we have completed another episode of After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions, where we talk about stories like Ruddy Apes and talk about, like, look, what's the ethics and what's the morality of this? It's basically the trolley problem in short story form. If you got a story you'd like to submit, you can do that on our website, After Dinner Conversation. You can also...
you know what you should do? Ask your friends, just point blank, like starting off a conversation, would you eat another human?
So
and see what they say. Give them this story. Have them watch this podcast.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Share.
Yeah.
No, just,
that'd be so cool.
You know
Share
what?
the podcast.
Share on your Facebook or Instagram. Be like, I would eat people, and then
hashtag I eat people,
and then literally post the story and the podcast.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that's an attention grabber right there.
I would love.
See what people comment.
God, someday.
See if anyone changed their mind.
Start posting recipes for long.
You know what?
See if they would change their mind. Like, check in with yourself. Would I eat people? Read the story and then check your answer.
Yeah. So I'm going to do this after this podcast come out. I'm going to look for the hashtag on Instagram and Twitter and maybe Facebook. I think Facebook allows you to do it too. And the hashtag is I eat people. Hashtag I eat people. If you read this story and you want to discuss with your friends about this.
That's going to go a different way if you're
I'm gonna
digger guy.
And I'm curious if anyone hashtags that. I would totally be fascinated by that if somebody hashtagged that. I eat people. So anyway, submit stories, talk about the stories, recommend the podcast. Also, feel free to buy a shirt, although you can't buy this one because this is the one we made special for Jeremy, but we got other ones just like it.
Can I mention it's the nice cotton poly blend, so it's like not that scratchy cotton, it's this nice soft cotton.
Yeah, if you're in Tempe, Arizona, come visit La Gatara. Check out the cats, support them. They have, actually, they're up to 572 cats they've adopted out.
Nice.
Woo!
Yeah, it's awesome.
Kitty's getting homes.
Kitty getting homes. And keep listening, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. And we love doing this. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. You know, the vast majority of people haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.